Hey everyone, tonight we tumble headfirst into the dusty, suspiciously damp, and hilariously dangerous world of medieval survival, where drinking water might kill you faster than a sword, and sleeping outside means you're basically a snack with a heartbeat. Welcome to a place where common sense is rare, coyotes have meal plans, and even your own horse might be plotting against you. So before we dive into boiling puddles and cursed blankets, take a second to like the video and subscribe, but only if this chaotic corner of history makes you laugh, wince, or reconsider ever going camping again. Drop a comment to let me know where you're watching from and what time it is. Seriously, I love seeing which brave souls are staying up for dry history for sleep. Now, get comfy, fluff that pillow, and maybe keep one eye open. Because tonight's tale begins with a bucket of water, a suspicious look, and a man who definitely regrets wearing clean clothes. Let's begin. How to not die in the Wild West. Trust whiskey. Fear water. There's a cruel irony to life in the Wild West. You can walk 50 miles through desert, dodge 3 bandits, survive 2 ambushes, and escape a horse that decided mid-ride to pursue a squirrel. But the thing that'll finally kill you? A glass of water. That's right. Not a bullet, not a snake, not even your ex's cooking. Just clear, innocent-looking, slow-acting, death-in-a-cup water. Let's rewind a bit. You're in the frontier. It's dry. It's hot. Your tongue is turning into leather. Every pore on your body is producing pure dust, and your lips are so cracked you could file wood with them. You finally stumble upon a creek, a well, or maybe a rain barrel behind a saloon. You rush over, cup your hands, and drink like a man who just discovered salvation. And that, right there, is where you made your final mistake. Because water out here is a trap. A shimmering, trickling, cholera-filled, bacteria-packed, intestinal betrayal. It may look clean. It may feel cold. It may even taste like hope. But I promise you, somewhere in that water is a microorganism with murder in its heart. In the Wild West, fresh water means nobody saw a horse poop in it this week. Wells are hit or miss. Half of them taste like rust and regret. The other half come with bonus worms. Creeks? Sure, they're flowing, but they also flow through things. Dead things. Rotting things. Used to be a cow things. Even rainwater isn't safe. Oh, you think you can just collect rain in a bucket and sip it under the moonlight like a romantic novel? Try again. That bucket's been licked by donkeys, pissed on by raccoons, and possibly used as a spittoon during last Tuesday's poker night. So what do the smart folks drink? Whiskey. That's not a joke. Out here, whiskey isn't a luxury. It's a water purification system with a punch. You see, while water has a 40% chance of turning your intestines into a Civil War reenactment, whiskey kills the bugs, numbs the pain, and makes you forget that you haven't bathed since last September. Now, is whiskey healthy? Absolutely not. Will it dehydrate you? Yes. But will it kill you slower than creek water? Also yes. That's why every frontier survival guide boils down to one rule. If it's clear and odorless, run. If it burns your throat, you're probably fine. Let me tell you about a man named Soggy Pete. Pete used to be a big believer in hydration, carried a canteen the size of a milk jug and drank from every stream like he was auditioning for a nature documentary. He lived healthy, didn't smoke, didn't gamble, didn't even swear unless a horse stepped on him. One day, Pete found a beautiful, babbling brook near a canyon. He bent down, smiled at the reflection of his own naive face, and drank. 2 days later, Pete was sweating through his boots, hallucinating that his mule was Abraham Lincoln, and vomiting like he was trying to eject his soul. The town doctor, who, to be fair, had exactly one book and a strong opinion about leeches, declared it a classic case of frontier water betrayal. Pete survived. Barely. But from then on, he bathed in whiskey, cooked with whiskey, and used water strictly to rinse his socks. Now, maybe you're the kind of person who says, "But I can boil the water." Sure you can. Got a pot? Got firewood? Got time? Because out here, you're lucky if you have a match and a piece of wet bark. And even if you do manage to boil it, congrats, you've made hot disease instead of cold disease. Unless you boil it like a witch's potion for a good 20 minutes, you're just sipping warm regret. That's why seasoned frontiersmen carry a flask, not a thermos. You ask them what's inside, they'll say, medicine, and they're not lying. Out here, whiskey is medicine. It treats shock, disinfects wounds, calms nerves, and most importantly, fills in for water when the water wants to kill you. But what if you absolutely have no choice? What if it's been 2 days since your last sip, and all that stands between you and total collapse is a suspicious puddle under a tree? Here's the process. Stare at it for a long time. Try to intimidate the bacteria. Sniff it. If it smells like death, it's because it's preloaded with it. Toss a coin in. If it floats, the water's fake. If it sinks, the coin's just as doomed as you. Close your eyes, say a prayer, drink a few sips, and immediately follow it with something alcoholic, spicy, or flammable. Frontier wisdom says the water can't kill you if you kill the bacteria first. Is that scientific? Absolutely not. But this isn't science class, it's survival. Now, every so often, someone invents a filtration system, usually a hollow stick stuffed with moss and lies. You'll see some overly confident greenhorn walking around with a sock tied to his canteen, bragging about how he's filtered out all the danger. You check back 2 days later and he's sitting in the outhouse playing the world's loudest accordion with his digestive tract. But here's the twist. Water doesn't always kill you right away. Sometimes it just waits, lulls you into a false sense of security. That wasn't so bad. You think, after drinking a pint of barrel rainwater with only 3 visible things floating in it, maybe I overreacted. And just when you relax, that's when it hits. Like a rattlesnake in your guts. A T first. It's a rumble. Then it's a warning shot. Then your body turns into an escape room with no exit and way too many puzzles. And the only man who can help you is the town doctor, who is also the town blacksmith, dentist, and part-time taxidermist. He'll give you whiskey, a cold towel, and a long talk about your mistakes. If you survive, you'll leave that cot a changed person. Wiser, emptier, possibly lighter by 10 pounds. And you'll never trust anything clear ever again. So what's the final lesson here? If the sun is high and your throat is dry, remember, water might be natural, but so is quicksand. Just because it comes from the earth doesn't mean it wants you alive. Whiskey may rot your liver, but water rots your legacy. Drink smart. Drink suspiciously. And for heaven's sake, if someone offers you a ladle full of something fresh, slap it away like it owes you money, because out here, death isn't always loud. Sometimes, it's just a gentle splash. If your stew moves, pretend you didn't see it. If you're the kind of person who wakes up thinking about omelets, pancakes, and oat milk lattes, let me introduce you to a little thing we call frontier cuisine. That's code for whatever didn't kill us yesterday, thrown in a pot and prayed over. In the Wild West, you don't eat to enjoy. You eat to survive. Meals aren't events. They're endurance tests. And the sooner you let go of the idea of flavor or safety, the sooner you'll stop crying into your biscuits. Let's begin with the main food group out here. Beans. Beans are everywhere. You'll find them in stews, you'll find them in your canteen by accident, and sometimes you'll find them in your boots if you sleep too close to the chuck wagon. They come dry, refried, mushed, half-burnt, or questionably fermented. Why beans? Because they don't go bad until the next century. Because they're cheap. Because when the cook runs out of meat, vegetables, or basic human decency, beans are always there to say, "We've got you." Now, when you pair those beans with biscuits, you have the full cowboy dining experience. But don't let that word biscuit fool you. These aren't your mama's flaky, butter-soft, heartwarming wonders. No, sir. Western biscuits are hard, flat, and deeply resentful of your teeth. They're less bread and more weaponized flour. Most of them could survive a war. Some of them already have. You don't bite a frontier biscuit. You negotiate with it. You dunk it in coffee, soup, rainwater, your own tears, whatever softens it enough to not cause dental reconstruction. And even then, it's like chewing regret with a hint of dirt. Then comes the star of the show, stew. Now, let's talk about stew. Stew in the Wild West is a deeply suspicious thing. It's served in metal bowls that haven't been washed since the California Gold Rush. It always smells hearty, but never in a way you can quite identify. And when you ask what's in it, the cook will either grunt, laugh, or walk away humming "Oh Susanna" with a limp. The truth is, stew is where dead things go to disappear. Rabbit? Maybe. Squirrel? Possibly. That thing they found under the wagon last week? If it fits, it simmers. If it twitches, it's stirred back in. The golden rule is, don't ask. And listen, if your stew wiggles, don't panic. That's just part of the process. Frontier stew has an ecosystem. The bacteria in there are older than some countries. Just nod, tip your hat, and keep eating. The stew sees fear, and it feeds on it. There's also a mysterious meat-like substance that occasionally appears in meals. It's stringy. It's gray. Tastes like anger. No one knows what animal it came from, or whether it was ever an animal at all. It might be horse, might be badger, might be boot. The only thing we know for sure is not chicken. Now, if you're lucky enough to eat at a chuck wagon run by an actual cook, usually a man named One-Leg Sam or Grumpy Edith, you might get something resembling variety. Maybe a flapjack, maybe salt pork, maybe dried apples that chip your molars like tiny fruity grenades. But don't expect seasoning. Don't even whisper pepper. That's how we lost a guy in Wyoming. He asked for garlic salt and never made it past lunch. Now, let's talk coffee, the only thing more bitter than the local gossip. Coffee out here is less a beverage and more a dark, gritty existential threat in liquid form. It's made from beans that were roasted in 1842, boiled in something that might be water, and served thick enough to patch bullet holes. Don't expect cream. Don't expect sugar. Expect mud, ash, and a jolt so violent it might reset your childhood trauma. It'll keep you awake for 3 days straight, then knock you out cold on the 4th. It's coffee, yes, but it's also a dare. And then, occasionally, God help us all, someone tries to be creative. They'll serve something called mystery pie, which is just leftover stew crammed into crust and lied about. Or cowboy chili, which is 90% beans and 10% scorched apology. There's even a dish called Prairie Surprise, which sounds festive until you realize the surprise is food poisoning. And don't forget the jerky. Jerky is like eating an old wallet with salt on it. If it bends, it's fake. Real jerky snaps like an angry violin string. It's been dried in the sun, smoked over questionable wood, and chewed on by the cook before being sold to you for 2 bits and a promise not to ask questions. Dining etiquette, you ask? Here it is. If it smells okay, eat it. If it doesn't smell at all, it's probably dead. If it growls, back away slowly. And if the cook is smiling, no one smiles while cooking out here. If they do, it means they added something special, and you're about to experience flavor in a way no human should. But maybe, just maybe, you're a hopeful soul. Maybe you think, I'll grow my own food. I'll live off the land. That's adorable. Please enjoy your diet of dry grass, bitter berries, 1 onion you found behind a rock, and the deep spiritual emptiness of foraging in a desert where even the tumbleweeds bite. The truth is, food in the Wild West doesn't nourish you. It doesn't delight you. It challenges you. It dares you to keep chewing. It laughs at your hopes of digestion. And yet, somehow it keeps you going. Because at the end of the day, even a half-burnt biscuit and a spoonful of squirrel stew beats starving under a cactus while vultures circled. So what's the final lesson here? Out here, food isn't food. It's fuel, punishment, and spiritual testing all at once. You don't eat for flavor. You eat for survival. And if you're lucky enough to finish a meal without crying, vomiting, or writing your last will in gravy, congratulations. You've passed the stew test. Your horse is smarter than you, so shut up and let it lead out here in the Wild West. You may be under the impression that you're in charge. You've got a hat. You've got spurs. Maybe even a pistol that hasn't exploded in your hand yet. You walk into a town like you own the place, or at least like you didn't just sleep behind the blacksmith's pigpen. But let me explain something important. You're not the boss. Your horse is that's right. That 4-legged, hay-munching dirt missile you ride? He's not just transportation. He's your GPS, your security system, your therapist, your emergency escape vehicle, and most importantly, your one and only chance of not dying stupidly in a desert ravine. Because here's the unspoken truth of the frontier. Your horse is always right. You might be a sharpshooter, a card shark, or a silver-tongued liar who once talked a bandit out of a robbery by quoting Shakespeare. But if your horse stops moving, you stop moving. And if your horse starts running, you run with him, because he sees what you don't. He hears what you can't. And he smells danger before you even finish saying howdy. Now, if you're thinking, puffed, it's just a dumb animal. Congratulations, you've just insulted the only creature keeping you alive. You wouldn't survive 24 hours without him. You'd be lost, sunburnt, and chewing on a cactus before sundown, sobbing about how your boots are full of scorpions. Let me paint you a picture. Imagine this. You're trotting along a quiet path. The sky is blue. The birds are chirping. You're thinking about biscuits that don't break your teeth and maybe settling down to open a respectable shop that sells only non-poison stew. Then suddenly your horse stops, dead still, ears perked, tail frozen. You don't hear anything. You don't see anything so, like the genius you are, you give him a kick and mutter, "Come on, you big chicken." That's when the bush to your right explodes into gunfire. A rattlesnake hisses under your boot, and you realize 3 things. Your horse was trying to warn you. You didn't listen. You're about to meet Jesus in long underwear. If you just trusted your four-legged friend, you wouldn't be rolling down a hill with a bullet graze and a rattler for a hat. Because the truth is, horses have better instincts than any man west of the Mississippi. They can smell storms. They know when the trail's about to collapse. They can sense ambushes, bandits, and awkward family reunions from a mile away. And they never forget that that's right. A horse has the memory of a grudge-holding grandmother. If you take him into a creek where he slipped once 3 years ago, he'll still flinch every time he hears water trickling. You think that's weakness? That's intelligence. That's trauma-based wisdom. More than I can say for you. Let's talk about names for a second. You might want to name your horse something cute, like Daisy or Muffin. Don't. That horse deserves a name that says, "I kick rattlesnakes in my sleep." Something like Dustbite Widowmaker Thunderpaws, if you're feeling dramatic, or just Sir. Because let's be honest, if someone shoots at you, who's going to carry you to safety? Not your mustache, not your reputation. It's the horse. You want him to feel like a warlord, not a pastry. And when you talk to your horse, and yes, you will talk to your horse, remember that tone matters. Horses understand 2 things: calm, respectful communication, and yelling right before a tree branch slaps you in the face because you weren't paying attention, so keep your voice even. Don't scream unless there's an actual bear. And don't ever lie to him. If you say, "It's just a short ride," and it turns into a 2-day gallop through cactus country, he will remember. And next time you try to mount up, you will get launched like a cannonball of shame. Let's not forget about care, either. You can't just ride your horse to death and expect loyalty. Feed him, brush him, talk to him, treat him better than you treat yourself. Because if you mistreat that horse, guess what? He'll walk you into low branches. He'll pretend to get spooked and throw you into a cactus. He'll make you look stupid in front of the sheriff's daughter. And the worst part? He'll look proud while doing it. That's called passive-aggressive equine justice. And you'll deserve every bit of it. Now, let's talk etiquette. If your horse stops in the middle of a trail, you wait. He smells something. Maybe a cougar. Maybe a bear. Maybe just a man named Larry who hasn't bathed since the war. Either way, you listen. You don't argue. You don't pull the reins like you're smarter. You're not. Also, never tie him too close to a saloon door. Cowboys crash through those things like drunk bowling balls. Your horse has feelings. He doesn't need that kind of trauma. And for the love of all things holy, don't swap him for a newer model just because some mustached merchant says he's got a faster stallion with shiny hooves. Loyalty goes both ways. Your horse didn't leave you when you fell in the outhouse. You stick with him too. Because out here, horses don't just carry you. They judge you. They know when you lie. They know when you panic. And they know when you try to take credit for a dramatic escape that they orchestrated. Last week, a greenhorn claimed he evaded a posse of 6 outlaws by sheer cunning. Truth is, his horse bolted at the sound of a gunshot, leapt a gorge, dodged 2 trees, and dragged him to safety while he screamed like a cat in a bath. The horse? Calm. The rider? Wet himself. Twice. But who got the glory? The man. Who deserved it? The horse. So here's the truth, cowboy. You may hold the reins, but your horse holds your life, so respect him. Trust him. Name him like a legend. Feed him like royalty. And when he stops in the middle of nowhere, ears twitching, don't ask questions, just follow his lead. Because out here, between the bullets, the bandits, and the buffalo, your smartest decision will never be your plan, your poker face, or your pistol. It'll be the moment you realized. The horse is the brains. You're just the baggage. Carry a gun like you carry a rattlesnake. Carefully and with regret. Out in the Wild West, a gun isn't just a tool. It's not just protection. It's a social signal, like tipping your hat or growling softly when someone looks at your beans. It says, I am not to be trifled with unless you have a death wish or a very good lawyer. But here's where most folks get it wrong. You don't carry a gun to use it. You carry it so you don't have to dot. If you think being quick on the draw makes you a man, you're already halfway to being fertilizer. Because in the West, the man who wants to shoot is usually the one who ends up shot. It's the quiet guy at the corner table, sipping burned coffee and polishing his dusty Colt, that you should worry about. He hasn't drawn in years, but when he does, things change. Zip codes. Let's begin with the basics. Everyone, and I mean everyone, has a gun. The barber, the priest, the piano player, the 12-year-old girl selling newspapers. Guns are like mustaches out here. Common, dusty, some impressive, most just sad. The difference is how you carry it. You ever see a man with a shiny, polished, pearl-handled revolver strapped low on his thigh like he's posing for a dime novel cover? He's either never used it, about to use it for the last time. A dentist from Boston pretending to be Billy the Kid. And sure, it looks cool until someone bumps him in the saloon and it goes off, hitting the chandelier, the barkeep, and a bottle of expensive whiskey in under 3 seconds. You want to live? Carry ugly. A scratched, rust-flecked iron beast that looks like it survived 3 wars and a divorce. Something that growls when you unholster it. A gun that makes people step back not because it's pretty, but because they can tell by looking, this ain't for decoration. And don't clean it too much. A spotless gun means you've had time to sit and polish. A dusty one says, I've been too busy trying not to die. Now let's talk about actually drawing it. There's a saying, the fastest draw is a man who doesn't need to prove it. Translation: the guy who brags about his aim is probably the reason the saloon's mirror is full of bullet holes and regrets. Shooting in the West isn't about skill. It's about timing, control, and the will to ruin someone's Tuesday. Most fights aren't duels. They're accidents, misunderstandings. Someone looked at your boots too long. Someone sneezed too loud. Someone said your stew tasted like roadkill, which, to be fair, it probably did. But if your first instinct is to pull iron over every insult, congratulations. You're officially on every wanted poster from here to Kansas, and you're going to get gut shot by a man named Clive who just wanted to finish his drink. Because here's the truth. Pulling a gun escalates everything. You go from that guy with the mustache to that guy everyone wants dead before dinner. You pull a gun, you better be ready to shoot, run, hide behind something that doesn't bleed, or all three. The smart cowboys, the ones who live past 30, they know a gun is like a wedding ring. Keep it close, don't wave it around, and only use it when absolutely necessary. And you don't just carry one. You carry like you carry a secret, subtle, intentional, a quiet threat tucked beneath the coat. Not something you slap on your hip like a silver trophy. There was a fella named Jasper once. Walked into a saloon with 2 pistols, 3 knives, and a bandolier across his chest like he was auditioning for a war movie that hadn't been invented yet. He ordered a drink, winked at the piano girl, and told the room, "Ain't no one messing with me tonight." They didn't. They waited until morning, when he tripped over a bucket out back and knocked himself unconscious. Someone took his boots, his pistols, and probably his pride. The point? Looking dangerous ain't the same as being dangerous. The most terrifying man in town is usually the one you didn't notice. Now, about firing that weapon, if you must, remember, every bullet has a lawyer attached. Not literally, of course. We don't have enough lawyers out here. But every shot brings consequences. The sheriff will ask questions. The undertaker will size you up. The victim's cousins will want answers and probably revenge. Best case, you get run out of town before breakfast. Worst case, you miss, and now you've got a shootout in a town where the buildings are made of dry wood and the bystanders all have opinions. And if you think gunfights are like the stories, quick draw, bang, dramatic fall, think again. Real gunfights are loud, ugly, and confusing. Dust kicks up, people scream, horses bolt, and you usually hit everything except your target. Unless you're real lucky or real unlucky. So what should you do instead? Use the gun as a suggestion, not a decision. Let people see it when needed. Let it glint just enough under your coat. Let them imagine what might happen if they push you. Fear out here is more powerful than firepower. A silent gun, one that never leaves the holster, is more effective than a loud one that's always waving around. And never, and I mean never, draw unless you're willing to bury someone. This ain't a game. There are no warning shots in a town with 3 undertakers and 1 priest. Every bullet costs something. Sometimes it's your reputation. Sometimes it's your freedom. Sometimes it's your horse. Speaking of which, don't ever fire your gun too close to your horse unless you want to walk 20 miles through buzzard country with a saddle on your back and a bruised ego between your boots. And don't forget, a gun might save your life once, but your mouth will save it 10 times more. Learn to talk, to stall, to laugh nervously and back away. A joke, a lie, a nod, those are weapons too. And they jam a lot less often, so let's sum this up real clear. Carry a gun? Yes. Flash it around like a carnival prize? No, keep it clean enough to fire, but ugly enough to be feared? Always. Use it only when your next best option is a tombstone. Absolutely. Because in the Wild West, pulling your gun doesn't make you tough. Surviving without needing to pull it does. If their name rhymes with trouble, it probably ends with you in a ditch in the Wild West. Names are never just names. They're warnings, advertisements, sometimes flat-out threats with boots on. You meet a man named Samuel? Probably a blacksmith. Elijah? Church-going fella, might lend you a shovel. James? Maybe a banker or a card cheat, you'll figure it out. But the moment someone introduces themselves as Doc, Dutch, or Dusty, you stop, you nod politely, and then you back away like they're carrying a rabid raccoon in their vest. Let's go one at a time, starting with 1. Doc. If you think Doc means doctor, then congratulations, you've just earned a one-way ticket to a field amputation and a lifetime of disappointment. Because in the Wild West, Doc rarely means someone who finished medical school. Most of the time it means a man who owns exactly 1 bottle of laudanum, a rusty saw he calls Old Trusty, and the personality of a ferret on cough syrup. Doc isn't certified in anything except drinking during surgery and talking to ghosts named Martha. You show up with a bullet in your leg? Doc will squint at it, say, "Yep, that's a bullet," then pour whiskey on your head and start sawing while humming Camptown Races. Anesthesia? That's a luxury. In Doc's world, pain is just a suggestion and blood loss is a temporary inconvenience. And that's if he likes you. Now, there are a few actual medical docs. You can usually spot them because they're overdressed for the dust, reading actual books, and terrified to go outside. Those guys? Harmless. But if a fellow with yellow teeth, one eye twitching, and a hat made from something unidentifiable walks up and says, "Name's Doc. That man once tried to fix a broken arm with a hammer and a prayer." Walk away. Point 2. Dutch isn't a name. It's a lifestyle choice. Anyone going by Dutch is either planning a heist, escaping a heist, or already hiding in your barn because the last heist went sideways. Dutch is the kind of man who smiles too easily, talks too fast, and has plans that involve you, a shovel, and an oath of silence. He's charming. He's friendly. He'll buy you a drink, slap your back, call you partner, and by the end of the night you'll realize your wallet's gone, your horse is missing, and so is your last name because Dutch signed you up for a stagecoach robbery without telling you. The real problem with Dutch? He believes everything will work out fine. Doesn't matter if the bridge is collapsing, the sheriff is 2 feet away, and the dynamite's already hissing. Dutch will say, "Trust me, I got a plan." Spoiler. He doesn't. Dutch's plans are like saloon mirrors. Shiny, breakable, and full of lies. And if you ever hear him say, "One last job," run. There's never one last job. It's the last time you'll see your toes attached to your legs. Dutch doesn't mean harm. He just leaves a trail of it. He floats through life on confidence, half-baked ideas, and sheer luck. And the problem with luck? It always runs out. And when it does, you'll be standing next to him holding the bag, the dynamite, and probably a hostage named Clarence. Point 3. Dusty. Sweet Dusty. The most dangerous of them all. You meet Dusty in the middle of nowhere. He's leaning against a fence, chewing on a twig, looking like a man who once dated a tornado and still carries a grudge. He'll offer you jerky, tell you stories, maybe even help fix your saddle. You'll think, "Hey, this guy seems all right," kind of like a big brother who wrestles cougars for fun. And that's exactly the problem. Because Dusty is always 2 things: friendly and moments away from ruining your entire month. Dusty's been everywhere. He fought in the war, or maybe just looted some battlefields. He's been a ranch hand, a bounty hunter, a horse dentist, don't ask, and once claimed to be the mayor of a town that doesn't exist anymore. You travel with Dusty for 3 days and it's a good time until one night you wake up to find him gone, your horse gone, and the sheriff knocking on your door asking why your name is on a wanted poster in 5 states. Dusty doesn't mean to destroy your life. He just kind of does. Like a human sandstorm full of charm, regret, and felony-level storytelling. And if he ever calls you partner more than twice in one conversation, check your pockets. Then check your horse's pockets. Then check if you still have a horse. Now you might ask, surely not every Doc, Dutch, or Dusty is bad? Oh, you sweet summer tumbleweed. Let me tell you what happened in Deadboot. A man named Doc, real name, Wallace something, started treating snake bites with chewing tobacco and optimism. Dutch, full name, unknown, possibly stolen, ran a bank out of the back of a wagon and skipped town with everyone's payroll. Dusty? He just watched it all, sipping coffee and saying, "Ain't my business." By the end of the week, the town was on fire, 3 people were missing, and someone had built a makeshift gallows labeled for educational purposes. Their cursed names, friend, not in the mystical sense, in the predictably disastrous sense. Because those names don't just happen to people. People become those names. They earn them through a lifetime of sketchy choices, suspicious facial hair, and a refusal to follow anything resembling a plan. So, what should you do? Simple. If someone says, "They call me Doc," check if they know what a spleen is. If someone says, "Name's Dutch," ask how many people are looking for him. If someone says, "Just Dusty," start running. Don't ask why. You'll find out later and you won't like it. Instead, stick with people named Bill, Sarah, Joe, or literally anyone whose name doesn't sound like it was invented by a whiskey bottle. And if your own nickname starts drifting toward Dusty, consider taking a long bath and a longer look at your life. Because in the Wild West, your name travels faster than your boots, and some names come with body counts.